Hello everyone, and welcome to ESPN's Racing Pick'em. It's a fun new game that you can play throughout this new Formula One season that has finally sped off. See what I did there? I'm Alexis Nunes alongside Nate Saunders, our resident expert, although he got a flying average of 34% right last week.
I don't like to talk about the first week. I made a lot of risky picks and I went out there and it backfired basically.
It backfired, but we do trust in Nate. In Nate, we do trust indeed. So it is a fun game that you can find over on ESPN.com throughout this season. So Nate, let's talk about what we saw last time around in Bahrain. Saudi Arabia is coming up next. Expectations for this weekend. How do you see the top four looking? Because it seems like after what happened in Bahrain, everybody's like, what do we expect?
Yeah, so the whole off-season, we were talking, would McLaren or Ferrari take that step forward and be the team to beat? And especially Ferrari, like we were all just super hyped about Ferrari. They looked good, but you know as well as I do, that's Ferrari's whole game, isn't it? Winter testing, they're always the quick team. What we saw in Bahrain was Ferrari is the team to beat, and Red Bull is right there with them. And what was really surprising was Mercedes so far off the pace. Lewis was 7/10 off pole position, which think about the last 10 years or so. That's just outrageous to think about. Lewis
Bit
was never
surprising, because even when Lewis was talking about it before, saying, oh, I don't know, this car, blah, blah, blah. I said, this is mind games. Mercedes is going to come out here and fly, but...
Yeah, no one believed him, and it took until qualifying to really realise that they were being serious. And in the race, they obviously got third, but that was because of what happened with the Red Bulls after. And from that first race, it's obviously the first race of a long season. But the pecking order right now, in terms of the top three, looks like Ferrari, Red Bull right next to each other, Mercedes down there. And usually when we talk top four, we talk about McLaren. We'll get to them later. But I'm not even sure we can put them in the top four right now because of what we saw in Bahrain. Haas looked like the fourth quickest team in Bahrain, which was pretty shocking given that they've been the backmarking team for so long. But yeah, at the moment, it's a straight fight, Red Bull, Ferrari. And for any Ferrari fan, any F1 fan, that's always a good thing. So I think that should be the same in Saudi. But the interesting thing will be how close will Mercedes be to that front pack.
Gasps in Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo. But like we said, we'll get to McLaren in a bit. So with all that said, who gets the fastest lap?
Yeah, so ordinarily, having said that, the natural pick would be Ferrari or Red Bull. Leclerc got the win, pole position and fastest lap last time out. But what we saw a lot last year was the team that's running second or third basically gets themselves a free pit stop, pits late for fresh tyres, goes for fastest lap. I can see Mercedes doing that with Russell or Hamilton this weekend. They're going to be a little way off the front, but a bit ahead of whoever's in that pack behind them. So I'm going to go left field. I know it's the least popular choice right now on the Racing Pick'em game for that question, but this is maybe why I got 34% last week. I'm going to say Mercedes for that.
Ooh.
Even though I'm not saying they're the quickest team, but I think they'll get the fastest
Well, they'll get the quickest lap. Fair play to that one then. Well, after everything Nate's just said, and Nate's our expert, I'm actually going to go against him for this one. And you know what? I'm going to go with Ferrari. I'm going to stick with Ferrari. Why not?
I mean, that's smart.
It's safe. I'm jumping on that bandwagon, Nate. It's a bandwagon that nobody's wanted to be on recently. But you know what? We'll go after what we just saw in the first race weekend. So, but I do want to talk about Haas now, because after what we saw, I think it left a lot of jaws on the floor. Everyone wondering, hang on, there's too many unpredictable things already. But Haas, is this for real? Is this a fluke? What do you think?
Well, it's wild when you look at the last month Haas have had. But from the very first moment their car came out the garage in Spain, which was the first test, all of the tech journalists in F1 looked at it and said, that's a really well-developed car. And we're so used to seeing Haas not really have a developed car. They were turning all their attention to this year from a long time ago. Then they had all the off-track stuff. They had to get rid of Nikita Mazepin, get rid of their title sponsor, and really you thought, how's this team going to compete without their title sponsor? They bring K-Mag in. You know I love Magnussen.
You love
one of my
K-Mag.
favourite drivers ever. And he comes in and is quick from the get-go and finishes fifth, which was amazing. He qualified seventh. But yeah, the car looks fundamentally quick. And I think that's the amazing thing, is that Haas clearly used that time pretty well. Whether or not they can sustain that over a year, they're a pretty small team, remains to be seen. But there's a cost cap now. So other teams around Haas can't necessarily outspend in the development race. It's all about who can develop the smartest. And this is the thing, we'll see now how good Haas is. Because for a few years now, they've just kind of been treading water, surviving. But great story for Formula One.
If they can sustain it, at least for this weekend in Saudi, do you see both drivers getting in the points?
I do. I think K-Mag's going to keep up the form. And Mick Schumacher was so close to that first F1 point as well. And what was surprising about Bahrain was we didn't see that many retirements until the Red Bulls late on. And usually in the first race, you get a lot of reliability issues. Saudi last year was just chaos. There were retirements everywhere. They've made changes to the track, but I can see the same happening this year. That opens up all kinds of opportunities for Mick. I'd love to see Mick get that first point. I feel like the team's in such a good place right now. I can see them kicking on. And I mean, just from a journalistic point of view, if we can say a Schumacher scoring points again in Formula One, I mean, that would be great. So yeah, I'm 100% backing Haas to get both guys in there.
I'm just 100% going to agree with you. I was about to say, you know me and the heartstrings, especially when it comes to Mick Schumacher. And we do love us some K-Mag as well. So for both of them, I'm hoping it's definitely not a fluke, at least for the entire season, just to make things interesting again. But I'm going to say at least for this weekend, why not? Let's talk McLaren now, Nate. Let's talk McLaren now. Our two boys, Danny Rick, Lando Norris. No Lando, no party. No Ricky, no party. But there was definitely no party after Bahrain. Saudi, obviously coming up. How do they turn around that nightmare that we saw?
It's really unbelievable. I mean, I mentioned over the winter we're excited about Ferrari and McLaren. And just as somebody who's seen time and time again Ferrari kind of promise a lot and deliver little, I was more excited and more optimistic about McLaren coming into the season. I just felt over the past few years where they'd been, the kind of growth that they've been having in that team, it felt like this was their time. And then they get to Bahrain, and it's not even like they're a distant fourth. They weren't even a distant fifth.
Proper struggling.
They were right at the back of the field. Now, I don't think that that's going to be the case this weekend. I think that the Bahrain circuit really doesn't suit that car. A lot of slow corners, very rough tarmac, and Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo both said that's kind of where the team is struggling at the moment, in those slow speed corners. So I think the 3-day test we had in Bahrain and the race we had in Bahrain, probably a bad bit of evidence for how good they're going to be over the season. But at the same time, we didn't see anything to be that excited about from them. It's not like they're suddenly going to turn up in Saudi and be the fourth quickest team, I don't think. So it's a bleak outlook still. And yeah, I think for them, a good weekend is them just going to be... imagine saying this a year ago. Them finishing near or above Haas is going to be a big weekend for McLaren based on what we saw last week, which is kind of crazy. And if McLaren has made that kind of mistake with this new regulation change, which was effectively starting from zero, everyone started from nothing, and you would have expected a team like McLaren to be right up there, and they haven't been. So I'm hoping, for F1's sake, that they're a lot better this week, but I can't see it being a huge step forward, even if it is going to be better than last week. Hopefully better than last week.
All right, well, with that said then, Danny Rick or Lando Norris, who has a better race this weekend? Obviously, better is relative given what's happened, but who gets the better race?
What was interesting last year was the dynamic between those two. Lando, over the course of a season as a whole, was probably the better McLaren driver, but obviously Danny Rick got the win at Monza. So he, when it mattered, really stepped up. So I don't know, it's interesting. I don't think Ricciardo fully got over, he had COVID over the test, so he missed 3 days of testing, and it seemed like he was still getting back to things. He finished ahead of Norris. I don't really think they cared much about the race position by the end. It was 14th, 15th. I'm going to say Norris. I just think at the moment, he's probably had a bit more preparation. Obviously, Lando's an incredible talent, and last year we saw how good he is. And I think that at the moment, he just seems to have a bit of a better handle on that car than Ricciardo does.
I'm going to agree with you on this one as well, too, just on that topic of Lando, because there's something about Lando, last lap Lando, that we absolutely do love to see. And finally now, the big one, the easy one to call. Never is an easy one, especially after what we saw last time. Race winner. Who takes all the spoils this time?
So there's one person I haven't mentioned this whole time, and that's Max Verstappen. And I think that what we saw last week was pretty worrying for Red Bull to have a similar failure on both cars.
That almost fuels Max, though, doesn't it?
But this is the thing, and Max now is he's already 26 points behind Leclerc because he got the fastest lap. Ferrari is so much further ahead of Red Bull. It's a long season. Last year, if you remember, Saudi is where Max nearly did the best qualifying lap we've ever seen. Incredible lap, and he put it in the wall right at the end. He clearly can hook a really good lap together there. He was Saudi last year. Him and Lewis had some absolute silliness going on the whole race, but Max fundamentally was very quick there. I can see him, if the car holds together, which at the moment is still a question mark for Red Bull, I can see him winning the race. I can see it being him and then the two Ferrari guys behind. But my vote on this question would be Max. I think that as well for the season, it would be helpful if Max gets that win back and then kind of cuts back into that lead and we start seeing the wins go back and forth, because that's what made last year so good, was he would win a few races, Lewis would win some, and then maybe they'd have some trouble together. One of them didn't run away with it for any point, so I'm saying Max.
I know Max is going to be coming for a vengeance, so I'm tempted to go there.
But I know you love a Ferrari win. So
I do love a Ferrari win, so I'm actually going to still side. I'm going to jump on Charles' bandwagon still and why not? It would be nice, make things interesting. Why not, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so Nate's picking Max Verstappen. I'm going for Charles Leclerc. And let us know what you guys, of course, pick in ESPN's Racing Pick'em. You can head over and play the game all season long right here on ESPN.com. Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.